Update. My 24 female friend, 24 female, wants me to believe that my fiancé, 28 male, violated her. Original story. I'm out of town for the weekend. Had to go babysit for my sister. My friend knows this and still decided to go to my apartment because she was too drunk to make it to her place. She knew I wouldn't be there. Heard my fiancé barely even talk. They never hang out unless I'm there. But supposedly, she still went without even telling me. My fiancé messaged me right away that she was there and that he didn't know what to do. I told him to let her stay in our guest bedroom. She went to bed and my fiancé and I FaceTimed until super late. A friend didn't tell me that she was there until this morning. She calls me saying that she went to stay at my place last night, but had to leave super early this morning after my fiancé violated her. She swears it happened. After talking to him, I feel like it's possible that it didn't happen. I don't want to dismiss my friend's feelings, but I've also known my fiancé for over 10 years and know he's a good guy. I've known this friend for a year and I don't think she's a bad person either. My friend said she won't press charges, but just wants me to know what he did. I don't know what to believe. Of course, this all happens 2 months from our wedding. How should I handle this? How do I know who's lying? Now for the top advice before reading the update. Isn't it super fishy the fact that she went to your place even though she knew you weren't there? Why would she go there if she doesn't even talk to your boyfriend? Was she out drinking by herself? It just doesn't make any sense to me. That part where she won't press any charges but she wants you to know sounds more like, I just want you to break up with him based solely on what I'm telling you. That's how I felt too. If the man I'm about to marry is like that, then please help me put him in jail. I still don't get why she went to our place either. Tell her to get a kit test done. Her response will help you gauge whether it's BS, because sounds like it is. Offer your support to go with her to the hospital to get a kit. Ask what she needs from your apartment to prove this happened, because obviously he should go to jail if he's really that person, right? I would take your fiancé's word on this, to be honest. Not a bad idea. I'm back in town this afternoon. Maybe I'll tell her I can take her to the hospital as soon as I'm back. I really want to take my fiancé's word on this too, but I don't want to just assume that she's lying either. Most likely scenario, your boyfriend was not interested in her advances and fabricated a story to get you to break up. Nothing happened, except her being drunkenly half-dressed in the hallway. The fact your friend knew you were not there but showed up without contacting you makes her suspicious, and she's the one that set up your boyfriend to be the bad guy. I really can't understand why she didn't let me know until this morning. She was with it enough to remember my address, but not to call me? That's so weird to me. And now for the update. Hey guys, here's the update. Finally. So long story short, my friend made it all up. My plan was to go to her place once I'd come back in town. I tried to get her to go get a test kit done. Unfortunately, I was stuck at my sister's with her kids. So my fiancé decided to go to her place without telling me and got the truth out her. He recorded their conversation, thankfully. She admitted that she lied, and I also found out that she was the one trying to kiss him multiple times that night, before he finally told her to go to bed or he'd kick her out. He told her we have a camera in our hallway, and we'll be taking it to the cops to sue her if she doesn't tell me the truth. She messaged me after their conversation, and instead of just admitting what she did, she tried to blame me, saying that these past few months all I've been talking about is the wedding. It is like I don't have time for her anymore. That her lying about this was the only way for her to get my attention. I tried to call her after that, and she wouldn't answer my phone calls. I even went to her place after I got back in town, and she wouldn't open the door. So needless to say, she will not be a part of my wedding. I've never had a lot of friends, and now I'm wondering what's even the point if all they bring is trouble. Anyway, thank you so much for your ideas and advice. You guys are the best. She wasn't your friend. Friends don't do that to each other. Don't let this experience stop you from having friends in the future. Not everyone is off the rocker. It just sucks that you don't know how messed up people are until they show their real colors. I would have never thought she would have done something like this. I thought she was an amazing person. In the words of my estranged sister, that's what you get for thinking. Glad it all worked out for you. She sounds incredibly messed up. Thank God her lies didn't do the damage she obviously wanted them to. Yes, I'm so thankful he was able to snap her out of her lies. Now we have that recording, and the text she sent me admitting she did lie, just in case she tries to lie about it again. Being accused of this sort of offense is the worst fear of many men. What a psycho. I know. I feel bad that I put him in this situation. I should have let him give her a ride home when he insisted on doing so. Facts. I had some female friends telling me to go to parties, and I absolutely refused for fear of being near people that are intoxicated, because I'm terrified that one day someone will try and ruin my life with an accusation like this. Next story. I, 29 male, can't seem to forgive my sister, 26 female, after she completely bailed on me when I was on the brink of being homeless. My sister from a young age has had only one person to rely on, and that person was me. We come from a broken family, with one parent that was only around till I was 5 and the other who was stuck in a cycle of addiction. Because of our situation, I grew up very quickly and shielded her from things as much as I could. She obviously was aware of what was going on, but she was not in the crosshairs. I started with stealing from our mother to make sure we had food and bills were paid. I got a part-time job at 13 because we couldn't rely on our mother. And when I graduated high school, I immediately got 2 jobs and we moved out. I had to push my sister through high school. She wasn't an easy teen for obvious reasons, on top of going month to month trying to get as much money together to pay our bills. Then at 19, she finally graduated after being held back a year. She changed her tune a lot and she started working as well and had her own place when she was 21. I finally got a shot to do something for myself and got a degree. As a result, I got a much better job. But unfortunately, that was right before the pandemic hit. So I pretty much went from hired to fired as I was a new hire. Now, the reason I'm saying all that is not to pat myself on the back, but to stress why my reaction is the way it is. I was out of work, on the brink of losing my apartment. It only had one person who I expected I could turn to. My sister. She was recently married, still lives obviously, with her husband. So I asked if I could stay a few weeks. At most a few months until I got a new job. It was a no. I was taken aback, but it remained to be a no. A week or 2 later, I was kicked out of my apartment. So I asked again and it was a no. At this point, I'm homeless. And the only reason I didn't end up sleeping on the damn streets was because I could crash with a few friends until I got a temporary job. I rented a room with a bunch of roommates for a while. Eventually got a job in my field again and am now doing fine. That said, I have not spoken to my sister since. She has called, messaged, banged on my door, sent crying voice messages, apologized dozens of times, tried to explain herself, tried going to my job, tried going to friends. Everything. I haven't said a word to her, and it's been over a year now. She recently had a child and she is still desperately trying to reach out. She claims her husband refused to let me stay. He even reached out several times to beg me to reach out. But to me, the one time I needed her, she basically tells me to F myself. And I feel like it was the last push I needed to just end that chapter of my life. I feel bad, but just not bad enough, I guess. Even my friends and my girlfriend are on my case that I should forgive her. And that they understood it at first, but now think I'm being an a-hole. What would you guys do? Now for the top advice. Tell your friends and girlfriend that only you get to decide when you're ready to talk to your sister. That is not their place nor their business to try to force you into an interaction that you aren't emotionally ready for. And if they care about you at all, they will shut the hell up and let you do things when you are ready to do them. And send your sister one message telling her that you aren't closing the door on ever having a relationship with her, but you need her to back off and give you the time and space to work through your feelings of betrayal. That you will reach out to her when, and if, you are ready to, and not a minute before. And the more she pushes, the less you want to be around her. Then get into counseling to work through your feelings. Decide how much of a relationship with her you can handle emotionally, and then proceed from there. If your girlfriend and friends keep pushing, then they are only doing so for their own selfish purposes rather than out of concern for you, and you need to shut them down hard. This is a good advice. Some skeptical part of me is wondering why the sister wants Opie back in her life now that she has a baby. Babysitting? Defraying baby expenses? Wanting Opie to play the happy, generous uncle? If it was real guilt, she would have reached out earlier. And it seems like sister only reached out once Opie was back on his feet. Edited to add, it could be that all of Opie's sacrifices have led to her growing up to be very self-centered, because all along she's never had to think of someone else. Your friends and girlfriend need to back off when this isn't their situation. You decide what you want to do here. They have zero say in the matter. I completely get your anger. You, at your lowest point, needed help after spending your entire life helping her up. And she said, nah, that inconveniences me. I'd be upset too. The hardest part would be trusting her again, because she's already shown she isn't trustworthy. His friends and girlfriend have no idea what it's like to grow up hard like that. The betrayal is like a knife in the heart. Since the last question is, what would you do? It's easy. I would not reach out. I'm someone who will do pretty much anything for friends and family. But as soon as I'm done with someone, I'm done. There's no going back. Ever. Sure, sometimes I miss some people that were in my life, but never enough to get back on that decision. Last story. My husband wanted me to promise him to never date anyone if he passes. I, female 36, have been married to my husband Thomas, male 34, for 6 years. He has a chronic heart condition that made him suffer for years. We have 2 kids together and he adores them, but couldn't be with them all the time or do normal activities together due to his condition. I work to be able to pay for rent/expenses and medical bills, which are the hardest. It's been like this for years. Thomas's health is greatly declining, and we recently were able to get him a device to improve his heart function, but it's not a long-term solution. Lately, Thomas has been asking me or the kids to sleep in bed with him. Before that, he used to sleep alone for medical reasons, including using catheter and having medical devices in his hand and chest. He was at a hospital for 2 weeks and said he missed me and the kids, although I was with him often. Last night, he was talking to me about what the kids told him they wanted to become when they grow up. He took his time to talk because this was a highly emotional moment for him. He kept telling me he knew he wasn't going to witness how our kids will turn out and what they become when they grow up. He said he'd be lucky if he could attend their next birthday, which I admit could be an exaggeration on his part. But I let him vent about what's been bothering him and try not to interrupt him. He then started talking about us, asking me what I would do if he passed away. Those questions I couldn't find an easy answer for, but he proceeded to ask if I was going to start over with someone new. He pulled my face close to his and said he wanted me to promise him to never date anyone after him, no matter what. I don't know why, but I froze in my place. He kept looking at me, telling me to promise him in front of our kids. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel hesitant. I had a very odd feeling, and something told me to not do it, especially not when he decided to get the kids involved. I pulled away and assured him he's the love of my life and everything I care about, as well as our children. He got upset, saying I was avoiding his request, and said he didn't expect me to even hesitate, let alone refuse to promise. I calmly explained how heavy his words were, but he said I probably had no problem seeing and dating someone. It might as well get the kids a new dad. I swore I'd never force my kids to call someone else dad, and he flat out called me a liar to my face. This made me speechless. He loudly told me to get out of the room. I tried to get him to calm down, but he started yelling at me to stop talking to him, after I made it clear he didn't mean that much to me. Then he told me to understand something, which is that he's going to make the kids promise him that if I ever meet someone new, then they should cut me out of their lives and stay with his family. I was in a shock. I called him unreasonable for thinking this was an acceptable thing to do to our kids. He said I should be happy I will no longer be held back by the kids, and that they live with their grandparents and aunts, not some guy I get married to. He kept insulting me till I broke down crying. He asked me to leave the room and threatened to pull his cannula if I stayed. I immediately walked out because I didn't want to get himself hurt over an argument. I understand he was just feeling scared and worried, but I think he was being unfair towards me with how he spoke to me. I felt so bad to the point where I wished I said yes to his promise if I knew he'd react this way. Everyone keeps telling me to have some grace and be patient because Thomas is dealing with so much right now, but they keep forgetting that I'm struggling too. I barely eat and basically have no appetite. I handle everything and have no room to vent, and yet I'm somehow at fault for how he acted? Frankly, I have no idea why I didn't promise him what he wanted and feel like he was being too harsh on me. Even the family say no matter what he does, I should just grin and bear. But I'm not sure if I can take it anymore. This reminds me of another Reddit post where a dying woman had gifted her daughter a journal. And in the journal, she had badmouthed any future woman the dad might marry after her death. The poster kept the journal a secret, but those words poisoned her relationship with both her father and later her father's eventual wife. The father had no idea. It was a tremendously sad story. That little girl never, ever should have been subjected to the depressed, scared thoughts of a dying woman. That's what I thought when you said your kids were present when your husband tried to make your promise in front of them. Poisoning the future, because they'll remember this. You need help. Well, he needs help too, but let's start with you. You need someone to help work through this, because what he's doing is sabotaging your future with your kids, and that is not okay. Remember that you matter too, OP, and what you need matters. Terminally ill people undergo personality changes sometimes. People do and say all kinds of weird things when they're grieving and panicking. I don't expect him to be an angel who tells you to find love and happiness after his death, though some terminally ill people do. However, going so far as to try to make you promise, doing it in front of your kids, and threatening to emotionally blackmail you via your children is off the map. You and your children should be in therapy, as a group and perhaps individually. This is very hard, and you should have disinterested support from someone. OP, you need to do several things. 1. Right away sit your kids down and explain to them that daddy loves them, but is very sick, and that is making him say things he doesn't mean. It's hurtful, but they should be nice to him and not take the things he says too seriously. Above all, they should understand that promises made to someone who isn't in their right mind don't count, because he will try to get them to promise him things. 2. Talk to his doctor and see if there's any medical reason he might be cognitively affected. 3. Keep the kids away from him except when you're there, so that you can head off these kids of toxic conversations. 4. Therapy for everybody. That's very manipulative, and in no way should you even consider what he's saying. He needs straight-up help. His request is one thing. He needs reassurance that he's your one true love or whatever. I guess I get that, but it's a request and not one you should be guilted into obliging. No, the moment he chose to berate you and put your kids against you is absolutely messed up. I honestly wouldn't stand for it if I were you. I don't care how terminal his condition is. That doesn't give him a free pass to be a callous, manipulative a-hole.
A-hole for refusing to do anything around the house because my wife insisted on staying home with our child. I, 28 male, have been with my wife, 27 female, for 4 years, married for 1. I'm an electrician and she's an accountant. I make about $60,000 a year and she makes about $50,000. 7 months ago, we had our first child. My wife was supposed to go back to work 2 months ago. She took the maximum maternity leave her company allows, which is 6 months, starting 1 month before labor. When it was time to resume work, my wife told me she would feel guilt and sadness if we put our child in daycare, and that she wanted to stay home with him. I suggested therapy, but she was very persistent and said nothing a therapist could say would change her feelings. At this point, it seemed like I had no choice, so I started calculating how much I would need to work to compensate for her income. I usually work 45 hours a week, 9 times 5, but without her income, it would need to be at least 65 to 70 hours a week, meaning 10 hours a day, every single day. I told my wife how grueling this would be, and she tried to convince me by saying that I must sacrifice for our child, and that she would handle all the child care and housework, so I wouldn't have to do anything at home. Even without housework, it still seemed extreme, but I reluctantly agreed because I felt like I had no choice. So it happened. My wife resigned from her job. Her company policy states that if you don't come back, you get replaced, and I picked up the extra hours. My day starts with going to the gym at 5 a.m. It's the only thing keeping me sane, and then I worked from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Getting home at 5:30 p.m., absolutely spent. I just want to take a shower and rest. During the first month or so, my wife kept her word and took care of all the housework. But then she started expecting me to help her around the house. I would remind her of our agreement, and she would look annoyed but move on and do it herself. 2 days ago, she told me she was tired and wanted me to make dinner. I flat out refused and reminded her that she was breaking her promise. I made it very clear that she shouldn't expect anything from me when it comes to housework. She looked furious, but got up and made dinner. Since then, she has been giving me the silent treatment. I'm full of anger and resentment right now. First, she got me taking on 25 more hours a week, and now she's breaking her promise and trying to manipulate me with a silent treatment. I'm losing my mind. Now for the top comments. Your wife F around and found out. A decision to quit is not one she gets to make without 100% agreement from you. She decided to do it anyway and laid out the terms of the agreement. You are keeping up your part of the bargain by working 65 to 70 hours a week. If she wants something more balanced, she needs to go back to work, not the a-hole. Agreed. Typically, I'd be on board with supporting the household load even with a stay-at-home mom. But what OP has to sacrifice? Sleep, work exhaustion, time away from his baby and home, and any downtime whatsoever has made this an extremely selfish choice by his wife. She thought she wanted a TikTok fantasy that doesn't actually exist, and she made OP's life hell to get it. I wouldn't lift a finger either, and this is coming from a mom. Exactly. I usually say the stay-at-home mom's workday should have an end of the day too, but in this case, cooking and cleaning fall under her responsibilities, especially since she forced this arrangement. Just make sure you're still an equal parent. Parenting remains a two-person job. It sounds like she underestimated how much work goes into being a stay-at-home mom, as well as how exhausting it would be for you to cover the lost income. You both need to sit down and clear the air, or the resentment building between you will tank your relationship. I'd suggest you look into work-from-home opportunities or part-time work to help financially, so that you can cut back some hours and help at home, not the a-hole. You need to talk to your wife. You're both building up resentment, and it will destroy your marriage at this rate. You two need to revisit the deal. If she can't handle the current arrangement, then you need to discuss her going back to work. Maybe she could find something part-time, working 2 to 3 days a week, so the baby doesn't have to go to daycare every day. You don't have to work 70 hours a week, and she doesn't have to do 100% of the housework. So not the a-hole for sticking to the original agreement. But if you don't sit down and have the hard conversation, you will be the a-hole for that. This part, it doesn't matter who is the a-hole at this point. Once they're divorced, they'll both be working in housekeeping full-time. Lol, time for a conversation. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law to handle her son because I'm done with him? My husband has caused many problems for me and our family, and I finally found the courage to get up and do something about it. Apparently, I'm being treated badly because I decided enough was enough. My husband has a serious gambling problem, just like his father did, and has followed in his footsteps. It has been ruining our finances. Many nights he would come home late. After his father passed away, I realized his gambling was getting worse. He would miss dinner, come home drunk, which scared the kids, and barely spend any time with them. I talked to him about his problem and told him he needed to get help because it was ruining our lives. Of course, arguments sparked, because he didn't think what he was doing was wrong. He would tell me that I was the problem, but I knew I wasn't. I was just trying to help. It was affecting our kids and I couldn't stand it. The best thing I could do was leave. I'm staying with my mom for the time being. He would bet on games, losing or winning money, but it was destroying our stability. I told my mother-in-law that she should at least try to help him get on the right path, because he wouldn't listen to me. She told me I needed to suck it up and fix it myself. I was shocked because I didn't expect that response. It was rude, considering I was actually struggling to find him help. I was stupid to think I could rely on her. Maybe that's why his family is upset with me. The only reason I told his mom was because she had said, if he's going through something, call me. Now I'm being shamed for doing exactly that. Some of my husband's family thinks I'm the a-hole because I'm thinking about divorce. Financially, I'm struggling, and I don't want my kids to see their dad coming home drunk and angry. I called my mother-in-law again and told her she needs to handle her son because I'm done. Am I the a-hole? The fact that you've let it go on for this long is what's concerning to me. You've been shown for countless years that help is not coming, and you stay trying to make it work for reasons I do not understand. I understand. It took this long because I had just given birth to our son and was going through postpartum with no help. It hasn't been years. It started in November. I've realized what's happening and now I'm getting out while I have the strength. I don't usually advocate for divorce, but if your husband has no interest in helping himself, removing yourself and your kids from the situation is your best bet. Exactly. He is actively harming the well-being of your family and has no intention of stopping. Your mother-in-law allowed her husband's behavior to influence her son to the point of following in his father's footsteps. Save your kids, what's left of your finances, and yourself, and get the heck away from him. Contact a good divorce attorney ASAP. At some point, it's not about fixing him anymore. It's about protecting your kids from that environment. Sometimes leaving is the healthiest choice for everyone. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not being home when my grandparents showed up to take me to my half-brother's baby shower? I, 17 male, have a pretty messed up blended family. My dad and mom were both married before and lost their spouses before they met each other. My dad had 2 sons with his first wife. My mom had 3 kids, a daughter and 2 sons with her first husband. I'm not sure of all the timeline stuff, but they were 9 and under when my parents got married. My parents went to marriage and family counseling to help everyone blend, but they didn't. Dad's kids are dad's kids, and don't want to be mom's kids or stepkids or siblings to mom's kids. And mom's kids feel the same way. They're mom's kids, and don't want to be dad's kids or siblings to dad's kids. My parents had been married for 4 years when they had me. CPS had to investigate when I was a baby, because when one or some of my half-siblings were supposed to be babysitting, they left me alone. And a neighbor came to check because I was crying loudly. I think I was 7 months old or something. I wasn't removed, but my parents had to attend classes, and my half-siblings were punished and put into therapy again. I don't remember having a relationship with my half-siblings. I remember some of them living here and ignoring me when they did. And I remember the fights they had with mom and dad. Dad's kids used to call me stain when they fought with him. Mom's kids used to call me the R-word mistake and fights with her. That's really all I remember. They don't talk to us anymore. My mom had some contact with her kids for a while after they moved out, but that stopped too. I didn't think Dad had any contact once they were gone. My extended family on both sides still has contact with them. Some of my half-siblings are married and even have kids. Extended family members were invited to those events, but we weren't. My parents have been talking to my grandparents lately about finding ways to get me involved in my half-siblings' lives, or at least to make sure I'm known by their families. One of my mom's sons is expecting a baby with his wife, and a baby shower was last weekend. My parents and maternal grandparents decided I join my grandparents for the baby shower, so I could interact with mom's kids and their kids there. I didn't want to go, and I wasn't invited, but my parents and grandparents said I was going. Dad's parents said they'd bring me to the next party they were invited to, and we'd work things out that way. So, I was supposed to let the baby shower be the start of reintroducing me. Instead of letting this blow up in my face, because I'm pretty sure my half-siblings' anger would be mostly directed at me and not my grandparents, I left the house early Saturday morning and didn't come back until late. So, I wasn't home when my grandparents came to take me to the baby shower. When I got home, it was a total crap show. My parents were angry, and my grandparents called the house that night and told me I had wasted a chance to reconcile with my siblings. They said everyone was there, from mom's kids to the grandkids she's never even met. My parents took my stuff for a few days as punishment, and I've gotten a lot of comments like, "You shouldn't have left like that." They told me I wouldn't do it next time and that I acted like a kid instead of a young adult. They don't care about my side of things, and every time I try to explain, they just tell me they make the decisions, not me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Sounds like you dodged more than just a baby shower. You dodged a family drama fest. Seriously though, it's pretty rough to be pushed into a situation where you're clearly uncomfortable, especially when it's with people who haven't exactly been your cheer squad in the past. It's one thing for your family to want you to reconnect, but reconciliation should be on terms that don't leave you feeling like the odd one out at a party you never wanted to attend. Maybe next time they'll consider sending an invite instead of a search party. Yep, nothing can bring that stuff out better than uninvited and unwanted guests at a party. Not the a-hole dude. This sounds like a super complicated family dynamic, and forcing a meetup at a big event like a baby shower could have been really awkward for everyone involved, especially you. It's okay to want to meet on your own terms or to avoid a potentially uncomfortable or painful situation. If your family really wants you to build relationship with your half-siblings, it should start with smaller, less intense settings. Not a full-blown party where you're just thrown into the deep end. Also, props to you for setting boundaries. It's tough, especially with family, but it's crucial. It would also help if my half-siblings were on board and not being blindsided. Last story. Am I the a-hole I called my sister's lies out to her CPS agent? For some backstory, I, 32 female, have a sister, 18 female, who has an almost 2-year-old son. She got pregnant 2 months after I did. She dropped out of high school years before she got pregnant. Her baby daddy is an abusive drug addict who's going to prison soon for DV against her. She also has an open CPS case that's been ongoing for over a year now because she has no job. Took roughly 6 months just to get food stamps, after I kept nagging her constantly and had to hold her hand through the entire process, and relies on friends and family for basic necessities, like diapers, wipes, rides, and before she got food stamps, food as well. Just recently, after nearly 2 years, she finally got her son enrolled in no/low-cost childcare, thanks to CPS helping her with a referral. With family help, she's planning to enroll in school in April and get a part-time job within walking distance in the meantime. I felt like all this backstory was necessary to highlight how she's a mother, but still acts like an entitled child, relying on everyone to take care of not only her, but also her son, hence the CPS case. Anyway, I bought a new car when I got pregnant with my second child about a year ago and gave her my old car, adding her to my insurance policy to try and help her and her son. She had stolen and crashed our grandpa's car about 2 years before that, so in hindsight, I should have expected what was going to happen. She had my old car for roughly a year and ended up totaling it 2 months before it was officially paid off, and I was going to transfer the title to her name. She ran a red light and crashed into another car, never paid the fines she owed or took the required driving class afterward, so now she has a suspended license. Fixing that was supposed to be one of the things she'd work on once her son got into daycare and she got a job. It took me a while to forgive her for totaling the car and to get over the fact that she doubled my monthly insurance rates. The other day, she texted me saying she could meet me at the nursing home where our grandparents live. I usually pick her up to visit them weekly. I was like, huh? And she explained that her friend's mom was out of town and letting her borrow her car. I immediately told her this wasn't a good idea. If she got pulled over with a suspended license, no insurance, and her son in the car, she'll go to jail. The car would be impounded, and CPS would take her son. She said, well, CPS is here right now, and they said it's fine. Again, I was like, what? I know she often omits important information when she's trying to finesse people into getting her way, so I didn't want to see her screwing up her life even more. I drove to her house and talked to the CPS agent outside, telling her what my sister had said. The CPS agent confirmed that my sister had misled her about the situation with the car and clarified that she had only said it was her friend's mom's car. The agent went back inside and told her exactly what I'd been trying to warn her about. That if she got pulled over or into an accident with a suspended license, no insurance, and her son in the car, she'd go to jail, and CPS would have to take her son. The agent added this to her file. My sister said she wouldn't drive it and would have her friend come get it. Now she's mad at me for meddling in her life and talking to the CPS agent behind her back. She isn't speaking to me. I understand why she's upset, but I don't think she realizes I was trying to save her from making a huge mistake. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You did what you thought was best, considering the well-being of both your sister and her child. Your sister has a history of making poor decisions, and you knew that allowing her to drive without a valid license and insurance, especially with her son in the car, could result in serious consequences. You didn't do it out of malice, but out of concern for her and her child's safety, as well as the potential impact on her CPS case. It's understandable that she's upset, but she doesn't seem to recognize the gravity of the situation or the risks involved. While it may have been uncomfortable for her to have you intervene, your priority was looking out for her and her son. She may be angry now, but your actions were ultimately protective, and you acted with good intentions. Thank you. I know in her eyes I just peed in her Cheerios, and prevented her from having an easy temporary solution for not having a vehicle. Not to mention the mom probably doesn't know her car is being driven, so if anything happens, she could end up with an unauthorized use of a motor vehicle charge. Not the a-hole. This was exactly my thought. I told her there's no way anyone would let her borrow their car, knowing she has a suspended license and no insurance. If she crashed it, they would absolutely claim she stole it to cover themselves.